Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It is a new season, it is a new era, and we are here for it. Ladies and gentlemen, Spittin' Facts has returned. So get out your champagne, pop those champagne glasses, get them out, start your clapping, applauding because we are back and we are here. I am always and honored to be joined by my really good friend, colleague, Mr. Joey Perano. Joey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, let me tell you, we have spent a lot of time recently talking about this. We got the band back together, and by the band I mean OBS here. We got everything ready to go. We got a really good episode cooked up to start for our comeback. We got a few extra little things that we're really excited to announce. We won't announce them just yet because we're going to make sure we get everything set first. But for right now, Season 2, Episode 1 of Spittin' Facts is here right now. And let me tell you, it's very exciting to be back. But first, I did want to just give a quick summary. Joey, go ahead. We've been gone for a little bit. Just update the people of what's going on.
Yeah, so a lot has happened since we've been gone. It's been a long time. It's been a couple months now. But, we're back and better than ever. We're ready for a great next season. We've got new segments. We've got new stuff coming. We've got new promotional things. And so we're ready for a great new season. Recently, the NBA playoffs have been going on. We're in the NHL playoffs. The MLB season has started. We're in the NFL offseason and past the draft. We've had a lot to cover. And today we're covering mainly NHL with a new segment later on. But, NHL has been fun. We're through the first couple rounds. We're now into the Final Four with the final Elite Eight game finishing up last night. So, we've got the Carolina Panthers the Carolina Hurricanes against the Florida Panthers, and the Vegas Golden Knights against the Dallas Stars. And it's been fun. I like all four of these teams. Big surprises. I think that if you would have told me that going into the conference play, the Bruins and the Oilers and the Avalanche would have been out, I would have been really, really confused. It's been a fun playoff so far. What's your take on the playoffs so far?
Oh, my take on the playoffs so far, it has been interesting, but kind of not shocking. I'm not saying that taking down of according to point and record wise, the best team ever in the NHL history of the Boston Bruins by the Florida Panthers. Now that was shocking. The Avalanche losing to the Kraken to me wasn't that surprising. Avalanche have been dealing with a lot of injuries in and out this year. They didn't look like themselves. They were a different team from a year ago. Seattle, on the same mindset, was the exact same way. They're a different team. They finished with 60 points last year, and now coming into this year, they had a 40-point surplus where they want to finish with 100 points. That's the largest margin in NHL history for a singular team. And it's also the first time ever a second-year NHL team has dethroned the defending Stanley Cup champs in the playoffs. So, I mean, it definitely has had its very, very fair share of, impactful moments. I'm really excited about the Final Four we got, which, of course, we'll go into deeper depth with here shortly. But, I've loved every second of the playoffs. I think this year of all years, we've seen a lot more reasonable physicality, too. I think each year it supplies its appropriate amount, but this year I've seen a lot, especially on the West side too. A lot of credit there. I have spent a lot of time talking about the Eastern Conference and how difficult that was going to be. The Western Conference came out of nowhere and has proven itself just as much as impressive as anything else. So I'm very happy with what I've seen so far.
Yeah, we were pretty close to getting a two new expansion teams Western Conference final. That would have been pretty fun to have Vegas and Seattle. But yeah, it's fun to see Grubauer playing well. They're gonna have quite a few couple of seasons coming up with Matty Beniers. They've got a lot of young talent. Bringing over Bjorkstrand, who's been really great. Tanev's been great. You got a lot of young players there, and it's really exciting to see where they're going. Schultz there, of course, too. Eberle doing really well. It's really exciting. I think that nobody's surprised that they didn't make the Western Conference Finals, especially, as you mentioned, with the year they had last year. And Dallas is a really good team. One thing we'll talk about up here in a couple minutes, the Conn Smythe finalists, who we think can get there from each team. Rube Hintz having probably the best playoffs out of anybody in the world right now. He's really showing up. He's leading the team in goals and assists. It's a really physical Dallas team. Really fun to see them. Jake Ottinger, of course, doing well as always.
Yeah.
That was a really fun series. easily the most fun series I think of the Elite Eight, getting to
Yeah,
Game 7.
100% correct. I completely agree with you. I think the Seattle had so much not to prove. They came out, especially the way they came out in Game 1. They punched Dallas in the mouth. Now Dallas did fight back, and by Dallas I mean Joe Pavelski, who spent 6 games out of 7 at home with a concussion from Matt Dumba in Game 1 from Minnesota. And then he comes back and scores all 4 goals Dallas had, and he almost single-handedly helped Dallas get back into the win column there. But
Yes,
Seattle came out and they made it a series from the start. You got to be really impressive. You got to be impressed with it. 60% of the time, the team that wins Game 1 wins the series. This time we did not see that happen, as Seattle did force a Game 7. However, they weren't able to finish it off. But with Rope Hintz, you hit the nail on the head there. Only Connor McDavid, off the top of my head, had more points, and he only had 1 more point than he did. Rope Hintz has been, without a doubt, probably the most surprising player to come out and lead points and be such an impactful player as he has been. Not to say that he isn't a really good hockey player, but to say that compared to everybody else with a Draisaitl and McDavid and a Nathan McKinnon and a Patrice Bergeron and David Pastrnak, this league has a lot of very talented players, and Rope Hintz to come out here and represent the Swedish country and just put himself on the map here really is awesome to see. We'll switch over real quick also to the graphic just to make sure everyone.
But seeing him put points up on the leaderboard is pretty fun to see. It's not the physical or the skillful play that we usually see. He's more of a physical guy, but yeah, big surprise. Really fun to see him shine in a new way. Almost like a
He will make you regret your choices, I'd like to say. Now, he's not the biggest guy, and he's not the most intimidating guy, but he goes at it and he fights for it, so you got to give him a lot of credit. It's not like the saying is, it's not about the fight in the dog, it's about the fight in the size of the dog, or however you say it. But my point gets across just as well as anything else. So, very good there. I honestly did not see him really being as impactful player. I really haven't seen that for most of his career. Only really in Columbus did I see anything. But hey, he came out. He has 11 points so far. Right. I think we can agree Jake Ottinger in the first round was truly, I think, of the 6 games I went to, only 2 of them was he semi-tested. He wasn't truly tested. Minnesota is a very physical, front-heavy team. Now, Seattle, on the other hand, while they don't have a lot of X factors, they do have 7 guys that score 30-plus points. So, Joey, Jake Ottinger, really, he has finally been tested. His record shows it. He gives up almost 3 goals a game now. Save percentage barely above 90. Talk to me from what you've seen so far from Jake.
Yeah, I think that he's really prepared for this Vegas series. I think that although we've seen him in these kinds of positions before in years past, he's really seen all kinds of players now. You talked about in Minnesota, he saw a physical team that hits hard and they're really good defensively, and that's kind of their strong suit. They've got guys like Kaprizov who are going to score, but other than that, they're not the ton of goal win teams. They're the fight it out win teams. And then you get a team that's the complete opposite with the Kraken. Young guys, goal scorers, guys who shine in college, guys who are crafty. And so really getting to see both sides of that and see Ottinger kind of not stand on his head, but to step up against a team like this Kraken. And even if he wasn't shining in all the moments, he was facing like 40 shots a night, and they ended up winning the series. He got out of it. So in those crucial moments, especially going 59 minutes and 33 seconds in a game 7 without letting up a goal, only letting up one goal, 6-on-5 with 17 seconds left was that goal to make it 2-1. He played that whole game, faced a lot of tough shots, got a lot of posts hit and things like that, but played a really, really, really strong game 7 and only let one slip in, down a man, and with no time left. So it was really fun, and I'm really excited to see how he faces this Vegas team who's got goal scorers like Mark Stone and goal scorers like Jack Eichel especially, with big defensemen too, to see how he faces that. But I really like them in this next series. I think they've got a good shot.
Exactly, and I completely agree with you. And Jag Onger has become my favorite goaltender in the NHL. He's really developed nicely in the 2 years, especially with that Calgary series last year where you're able to see what we're going to get with him. A mostly healthy year this year in the regular season. Then besides game 1, I mean, he has shown that he, at the end of the day, while you can beat him a few times, there are really good teams here, but the team he's with, he's able to be resilient and make the ultimate saves. He's 8-5 so far to start out this playoff campaign this year. So no complaints from my end. And speaking of no complaints, I think if you got to give a round of applause or hats off to anybody on the Seattle team, it is Philip Grubauer from the Seattle Kraken, their goaltender. Well, he did go 7-7, and he has the same percentage as Jacob Ottinger, who, in my opinion, I mean, Philip Grubauer up to this point has been one of the most impressive goaltenders in the entire NHL playoffs.
Mm-hmm. I think a real acknowledgement that he needs to get is that the Seattle Kraken are an offensive team with young stars. Defense is not their strongest suit. They've got good defensemen back there. They've got Schultz back there. They've got good leaders. But defense isn't where they shine, I guess. And so Grubauer stepping up, he was unbelievable in that series. Even though they didn't get the win, you've got to be so happy as a Kraken fan looking forward. If you're a Seattle Kraken fan and they finished bottom 3 last year, and you beat the Avalanche and make it almost to the conference finals based on one game away, you got to be thrilled. Nobody expected them to be anywhere close to the playoffs, much less close to the Western Conference Final.
If you were last year, yeah, no, there's no question about that. And it was funny because on my bracket of the NHL, I have the entire West correct. I do, and my East side is just absolute garbage. I think it's funny and to compare it like that, but Grubauer deserves the love. Ottinger deserves the love. I like it. If for these, we'll do these two teams, or well, for Dallas at least. So since we're here with Dallas, if Dallas, would you want to do Conn Smythe right now, or is if it was the finals?
Let's do Conn Smythe as we go.
All right, cool. Dallas stars Conn Smythe. If I had to give it away, I would give it to Roope Hintz. 19 points. He's leading the team on and off the ice right now. He's really aggressive when he skates. Again, leads the team in points. He's really stepped up. My honorary mention, if it would be Pavelski or Ottinger, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But for me, I would give it to Roope Hintz.
Yeah, one thing I want to say before I go into mine, whenever I was looking up Conn Smythe information, the Conn Smythe odds based on DraftKings going into the playoffs, not current, the top 8 players on the list are no longer in the playoffs. It goes Pasternak, McDavid, Allmark, McKinnon, McCarr, Matthews, Shesterkin, Marner. And then you get Eichel, Aho, and Anderson. So the first 8 are no longer in the playoffs. And that really shows you, out of those first 8, 7 of them are Leafs, Avalanche, Oilers, and Bruins. So it's really crazy to see. My Conn Smythe, I think I'm trying to take into perspective that this means that they're going to beat Vegas and then go beat one of those East teams. And I think that if they beat Vegas, I kind of think Pavelski is going to be able to do it. I think if you have to give them a Conn Smythe trophy based on the first 2 rounds, I think you're exactly right. Roope Hintz and then Pavelski and Ottinger behind him. But I think that if they're going to get to the finals and win it, they're going to have to rally behind Pavelski, and I think that's going to be their leader. So Roope Hintz is their Conn Smythe winner for right now. I think if they end up winning the Cup, I think Pavelski will be the one to get it.
Very good stuff, Mr. Prieno. We're going to move on to now the next side of the other side of the Western Conference. The Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers went to battle, went to war. One of the most, besides the Minnesota Dallas Stars series, I think this is easily the most physical series in the entire playoffs. What we saw between these two teams, a lot of suspensions handed out as well. So we'll take a look here as well. So Vegas, Jack Eichel leading the way, 14 points, 6 goals, 8 assists. Mark Stone, the leader, missed a majority of the year, comes back. He's really stepped up. Again, I made a take earlier in the year. When Mark Stone isn't on this team, before Jack Eichel came along, this Vegas team was atrocious. Now Jack Eichel's here. Things have apparently turned around for them, and that's shown to be very true. Chandler Stevenson, 10 points. Jacob Marchessault also has 10 points. And then, I mean, Vegas has had for some reason, Jonathan Quick has not really started at all in the series. So for Hill going 3-1, allowing just over 2 goals a game with a 93% save percentage, very good, very very good. They've been able to utilize the backup talent they have as goaltender. And then for the Oilers, not surprising, McDavid and Draisaitl are the top 2 in points on this team. McDavid didn't score a goal till game 3 or 4 against the LA Kings and Korpisalo. So, I mean, McDavid did get a late start in the goal region, but he did finish his 8 goals. Draisaitl leads the team with 13 goals for his 18 points. Bruce Shard has been proven to be someone to be worthy of. He has 17 points this year. He's definitely been the Oilers' step-up man that no one expected hit for him on the defensive side. And then Zach Hyman, former Toronto Maple Leaf, who we will reach about his team shortly, with their first time making it past the second round since 2004. However, I think, and you can take in on this, I think a big Edmonton Oilers flaw this year was the goaltender in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Although Jack Campbell looked good in the second round, he leads the league in save percentage and goals against average. He's best. He looked really good, but I completely agree with you. I think that Jack Eichel to Vegas, that deal is the best deal of the entire season, and I think it's showing. I think that I was a little hesitant on it at first because I was like, well, they're playing atrocious. Is Jack Eichel really the person that's going to step them up to the next level? And he absolutely did, and they would not have gotten past Edmonton without him. Jack Campbell, their goalie was really bad in the regular season, and it looked better, but it was kind of too little, too late. I'm really interested to see what the Edmonton front office does this year, because as much as Edmonton has maybe the 2 best players in the NHL in Draisaitl and McDavid, their first line is the best line in the NHL and will be for a long time, and the rest of their team is really not great. And it kind of shows you how when you're leading behind them, McDavid and Draisaitl are top 2 in points in the entire league, and then top 2 in points in the playoffs and all this stuff. It can get you so far, but then when you're playing other teams, you kind of hit a wall, and it's like, ooh, what are you going to do when your third and fourth line are on the ice?
Exactly.
And they can't do anything.
And that's why they split up Draisaitl and McDavid, because they had them on the same line. They were absolutely brilliant, but there was nobody back them up on the second, third, or fourth line, so they split them up. McDavid on 1, Draisaitl on 2. And while they were more effective, they still don't have any backup to that support. So in the Hyman aspect, they were able to get a little more production. Defensively, they've run little in depth too, besides Darnell Nurse. And
he's not been great.
Exactly, and he hasn't been proving anything right now. And Bruce Shard's been doing really good. But the Oilers now have an offseason to think about it and make adjustments. Like Toronto, Edmonton and Toronto both 2 excellent stars with a sprinkling of a backup support system. Toronto well more than Edmonton, but it should be interesting what both teams do here in the offseason to address that issue.
Yeah, it's going to be a real fun offseason. You got to address these problems. And Edmonton is doing everything 100% perfectly if they want to make it to the second round and lose everything.
Yeah, no, they really are.
Something has to change or they're not going to be able to get to the final. This year looked like the year, and once again it proves that you can't just get there on your first 2 lines.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
I'm excited. But more than that, I want to talk about this Vegas team, because this Vegas team is fun. The Jack Eichel deal, as I said, was amazing. But surprise of the playoffs for me has to be Adin Hill. I mean, he's fourth in goals against average in the entire league. And he's second among active teams, only behind Freddie Anderson, who we'll talk about later. He's second in save percentage. And this guy came out of nowhere. Yeah, so Jonathan Quick, really a great leader, but, I mean, I guess he's a good role model for Aiden Hill. I guess he's a good veteran to teach him. But he's the guy there and will be the guy there. It's really, really interesting to see how they moved on from Fleury and moved on from all these other goaltenders that you thought might be the guys there. Maybe Aiden Hill's there to stay. I don't know. Maybe he's just having a good couple games. But he's really played well against probably the best offense in the NHL whenever it's those first two lines. But I don't know. I think that Eichel right now is the Conn Smythe guy for me, if we want to talk about that now. But
yeah.
I think that Aiden Hill is catching up. And I think that if they go in and they really beat Dallas well, and he plays well, I think he's your Conn Smythe.
Yeah, I'm going to follow up exactly with you on that one. I think Jack Eichel is your Conn Smythe winner. 14 points so far. He's stepped up tremendously this year overall and in the playoffs, so you got to give a lot of credit to that. Jack Eichel, Conn Smythe winner as of right now. But Aiden Hill, honorable mention, no question. He's my number 2 guy right now to me. Because, again, credit. Mark Stone, everybody has done a really good job. But we've seen that from him. And to give a young kid a chance, a young stud, I'll call him a young stallion, especially when you have Jonathan Quick in your corner and for some reason not starting him, there has to be something underlying. That's the reason. But
I think he's not starting just because Aiden Hill has been so good.
Yeah.
I think Aiden Hill is hot, and you don't want to mess that up right now. I think if he has a decline, Quick will come in.
Yeah.
Well,
they also started So when they started the Brinsois over everybody, that kind of caught me off guard. That's when I led to something, and he did a really good job to start off, but then he got hurt. You put in Aiden Hill. I think the goaltending has been reliable when they needed, and that deserves a lot of praise.
Yeah.
All right.
I think this is a classic Mighty Ducks 2 kind of tale. When the USA was playing and Goldberg, he was in net and he was shutting down.
Exactly.
Couldn't put in Julie the Cat Gaffney because you got to ride the hot hand in Goldberg, and eventually they needed to put her in, and that's what won it. Just a little Mighty Ducks reference in there. It's one of those stories.
Alrighty, we're going to take a pause on the West.
Yeah.
And we're going to go summarize the East now. So, first matchup we'll talk about, Devils-Canes. Now, this matchup was anticipated to be quite the series. And I don't know about you, but it wasn't as hyped up as expected. Devils did almost the same thing they did in the first round. First 2 games struggle, and then from there they made it a series. I think that was their fatal mistake. Jack Hughes did an excellent job, especially against the Rangers. He kind of fizzled out here against the Hurricanes. But as you can see on the screen, Jack Hughes, 6 goals, 5 assists to give him 11 points, lead the team. Andre Palat finished with 7 points. Dawson Mercer 7, and then Nico Hischier, their captain, also had 7. I think the New Jersey Devils' fall was the lack of point scoring in the second round, and then Schmid doing an exceptional job against the Rangers. He really helped them push them past the Rangers, especially when Vitek was struggling immensely. But the Canes had Schmid's number. Schmid falls now down to 4-4 overall. He didn't even finish the series. He started as the starting goaltender, didn't even finish the series. 2.35 goals against average with a 92% save percentage. So now, Joey, I bring it up to you. What do you think was the fatal flaw of the New Jersey Devils?
I think that the Hurricanes are really good. I think that was their flaw.
That's a very good point. Very good point.
I think that they took too long to beat the Rangers, and I think that the Hurricanes had too long of a rest to prepare. And I think that their team is really the Devils have the youngest team in the NHL, age average-wise. And I think that they're really fast and they're really good, but I think that showed a little bit, especially when you're versing Freddie Anderson, who's been around a long time. You're versing Brent Burns, who's been around a really long time. You're facing Jordan Stahl, who's been around a really long time. And then those players are surrounded by youngsters who are really fast. I think that other than Andre Palat, the Devils just didn't really have too many guys who've been there consistently. And I really think that the only reason that they didn't win this series, other than the Hurricanes being good, is lack of experience that the Hurricanes had so much more than. And I do think that the series was a little bit of a letdown as a fan perspective, But as a Hurricane fan perspective, I loved watching this. They looked so good. Spetsnikov going out at the end of the year really, really scared me, and they struggled for a while after he left. To see them bounce back like this with a commanding 4-1 win was really great to see. You love seeing when your old guys like Brent Burns and Jordan Stahl are tied for third in points so far in the playoffs, seeing them get on the leaderboard. Same with guys like Jesper Fast. This Hurricanes team is so good, and I'm so excited that they're in the conference finals because it's something I've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, no,
yeah. This could be fun.
It makes me laugh because we talk about here, and earlier on in the year, I had made mention that, the Carolina Hurricanes are. I personally, again, for like the third straight year, was like, you know what, Carolina Hurricanes are going to pull away with another second round exit. It's just what they do. They're really good at it. They have a lot of talent, but never enough to finish it. And between utilizing a quicker series than anticipated between the New York Islanders, and then being able to utilize the Devils taking a very long time to fight off the impending doom of the New York Rangers. So I was given a saying my good buddy I met up at college gave me, who we had spent a lot of time talking about this series. He said that the New York Rangers or the New York Devils are the New York Rangers of last year. And the more we talked about, the more it just made sense. And I think that's exactly right. The difference is the goaltending.
I was going to say the difference is Igor Shesterkin.
The difference was Igor Shesterkin. And last year's Igor was so much better than this year's Schmid and Vitek Vanacek. I really don't know how they pulled it off. I think it was more or less a factor of the Rangers just choked it out. But moving back on to Carolina, Carolina has done an exceptional job. Antti Raanta stepped up when needed, but Freddie Anderson right now is really he has stepped up and proven himself as the mighty man himself. If you want to take just a look here on the screen that I pulled up for Freddie Anderson right now. I apologize. That's his regular season numbers. Let's pull up his playoff numbers instead. That would help. Freddie Anderson right now 5-0 in play right now with a 1.8 goals against and a 93 save percentage. It's really, really good. Granted, he's only played 5 games, but Antti Raanta stepped up when needed, was able to kind of hold back that wall. But Freddie Anderson has tremendously stepped up when needed. He's not hurt. He's healthy. Something we haven't seen too often. So I think that's a defining factor right now. But if you want to go back to what we've seen right here, Aho's 10 points, Martin Hook 10 points, Jesper Fast and Jarvis both have 8. So they have more than one guy stepping up. The depth is stepping up. Freddie Anderson stepping up, staying healthy. So something you got to look at. That's definitely been the reason of their success.
Another thing that I love to see is they have a 90% penalty kill percentage, which is best amongst the playoff teams so far. And that's great to see because the teams that barely missed out and lost in the first round that have less opportunities and so therefore have a higher percentage, like the Avalanche, for example, the Hurricanes are higher than them. Their special teams is so good. Their defense with Slavin and Burns together is really good and great to see. And they're just physical, but they're so young at their skill positions too. Marty Necas having a slower playoffs compared to what we saw in the regular season, but still a really good goal scorer. And seeing Freddie Anderson, like you said, he got hurt again this year during the regular season, which was tough to see. Was in and out, and then after he was back, it took him a few weeks to get back into the swing of things. Like he didn't just pick up where he left off, and he's there. He's where he left off. This is 100% young Freddie Anderson that we're seeing back when he was in his prime with the Leafs. This is now his prime. He's made this his prime. And when he's playing the way that he's played during this Devils series, he's dangerous, and you got to watch out. There was that 8-4 game where he wasn't the goalie, and that was their only loss.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even a net for that.
Yeah, no, it's very true.
Yeah, he's just so fun. And I'm going to talk about my Conn Smythe now for this. Freddie Anderson has been so good, but I think Sebastian Aho is the Conn Smythe. I think that in the hypothetical that the Hurricanes win the Stanley Cup, I think Jordan Stahl retires, I think Sebastian Aho becomes the captain and gets the Conn Smythe, and is then the captain for the Hurricanes for the next many years.
That's
That's the goal.
That's fair. I'm gonna go now. See, the nice thing about these Conn Smythes are who we think deserves a Conn Smythe, not who we think's gonna get it. Who we think deserves Conn Smythe. To me, Conn Smythe right now goes to Freddie Anderson. I don't disagree with your take. I like your take about the Sebastian Aho take. I think he, per usual, is stepping up, but that's the thing. Per usual, Freddie Anderson hasn't been given a playoff opportunity where he's been healthy or on a legit team that's made it past the first round until this year. So, to me, Freddie Anderson gets the Conn Smythe, and you don't see a lot of goaltenders get it. But I think he deserves a lot of praise for it. Pat on the back to Antti Raanta, but for me, goaltending's been the biggest performance changer so far.
It's a good take. I think Aho would get it, and I think that it's 1A and 1B. Like I think that if Freddie Anderson got it, I wouldn't be shocked even a little bit. I think that they're both so good, and I think statistically, I think that you're right. I think that you have the better take. I think that as a Hurricanes fan, I'm kind of hoping that Aho gets it and then becomes the captain, but I really respect your take, and I think that that's probably the case.
Yeah, all three Stahl brothers are still in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, something to be noted of. A little fun fact there. Of course, now the other Stahl brothers, geez Louise, they play for the team we're going to talk about next. The final two teams we have to talk about before we move on to the conference finals. The Florida Panthers took on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Ethan and Joey, did you sniff some smelling salts? The Toronto Maple Leafs made it past first round? Well, I say to you, person, yes, they did. Toronto Maple Leafs for the first time made it past the first round since 2004, and well, it was just as much a letdown as ever. It was a lack of offense. There was only two of the games went to overtime. Toronto didn't score more than 2 goals per game on average in this series. Not surprised. They scored 2 or less. They lost the series 4-1. Florida won handily. They went into Toronto. I think that was the biggest thing. Toronto was one of the best home teams in the NHL this year, and Florida just went in and they owned the show and when they were up in Toronto. Toronto's only win did come down in Florida too. Something to noteworthy. But if we're going to talk player specific wise before we get into the Toronto letdown of the second round, Matthew Tkachuk, exceptional so far. He's a guy, I think it's fair to say, a guy that you hate to play against, but a guy you love when he's on your team. You hate to love him. You hate to be against him, but you love to hate him. So, however that saying go, again, I'm not really good with sayings, but my point again still gets across very handily there. Carter Verhaeghe, another really good standout player. Did not expect him to be in the top 4. He's 12 points. Brandon Martor, then the captain Alexander Barkov, right behind him with 9 points there. Sergei Bobrovsky did not start in the series. That was Lions who did start out in the series. Again, another round of applause to Lions there. But for Panthers wise, Sergei Bobrovsky 7-2. 7-2. Let that sink in. A guy who hasn't made it past the first round of the playoffs ever. Right now is heading to the conference final 7-2.
I might have to fact check you there a little bit.
You might have to.
He was on the Columbus team that swept Tampa.
Yeah, he was. He didn't make, but I don't think he made it past.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said made it to the second round.
No, made it past the second round.
You're right.
Okay, Sergei Bobrovsky, that's not his fault because the team he's been on. But 282 goals against average with about a 92% save percentage. He has played excellent. And spoiler alert, Tkachuk and Bobrovsky are my top 2 Conn Smythes. I don't know if I need a lot more time to think about it. But as long as it's one of those two, I'd be content. Those two guys have really stepped up on this Florida team. What have you seen so far from this Florida team, Joey?
They're fast. They're really fast. And Bobrovsky's playing really well. And Sergei Bobrovsky, when he's playing 100% and playing really well, is a really scary goalie to go up against. Conn Smythe for me, I think, is Tkachuk. I really think I think Bobrovsky's really good, but I feel like it's kind of hard to debate Tkachuk. Of course, him coming in, first time with the team, playing really well. I mean, he's just so fast and he's so feisty. He's like a young Sidney Crosby, you know. Like he's a goal scorer and he gets in and he's quick, but you know he'll stand up for his teammates and he'll get.
He got in a fight with Linus Ullmark. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Yeah. I wanted to see those two go at it. No, you're exactly right. He's just a more aggressive Sidney Crosby, and Sidney Crosby doesn't get the aggressiveness award as much because he doesn't really get into fights. He'll stand up for his teammates, but you don't see too much out of it, right? Like, he's just a more aggressive and violent Sidney Crosby.
It's Crosby right now if he had the aggressiveness of when he first joined the league.
Exactly.
That's a pretty good comparison. Like that's pretty high praise.
Exactly.
Yeah, Kachuk is so good. As a Hurricanes fan, I'm pretty nervous for this series. I think you're like, oh well, it's the Panthers. The Hurricanes are going to beat them. That's fine. They beat the Bruins. Then they beat the Leafs. I think that the Leafs will go the next 20 years, making it to the second round every year, and then never making past it. I think then 20 years later they'll do it with the conference finals, and then they'll win a final. I think that's what it'll be. They'll take like 60 years. But
60
no,
years.
I think that the Leafs fought so hard against Tampa, and were so excited that they got past the first round that they forgot they had to play a second round.
Yeah, they did. They forgot.
So they weren't exactly prepared. But also, the fact that Florida cleaned up Boston the way they did, it's like you've got so much momentum. You beat the best team to ever play. They set the record, and they go in and beat them as the last season of the playoffs. You've got so much momentum. I think that's what carried them on. I think both of these series going 5 games, they've both had a lot of time to rest and a lot of time to get ready. And I think this series is going to be so much fun. Both teams stack up pretty well, both with leaders and young guys. Like, you've got Kachuk, the way that you've got Aho, and you've got Barkov, like you've got Stahl. Defense, you've got Montour, like you've got Burns and Slavin.
Yeah.
And Brady Shea. Like, these teams stack up really well. Bobrovsky and Anderson are great comparisons, even though I think Anderson is better. But it's going to be a fun series, and I'm really, really excited about it.
And you alluded to it, so I'll put it on the screen real quick. The final 4 remaining teams. We talked about it, but just so you can get a visual. The number 1 seeded Vegas Golden Knights will be taking on the number 2 seeded Dallas Stars. And then the number 1 seeded Carolina Hurricanes, the number 1 seeded of their section, Carolina Hurricanes, will take on the second wild card team, Florida Panthers, which I'm not used to saying. It's definitely a lot of credit due there, credit where it's due. So, now we move on to the conference finals. Now, these graphics I'm about to pull up, full disclaimer, are not mine. I did not make them. I found them because I really like their design. That goes to Puck Report NHL. Look them up on Instagram, no spaces, all lowercase, Puck Report NHL. I highly recommend it. They make excellent graphics, great content. I'm always finding myself scrolling on their page. So, quick little plug for them real quick because, again, did not make these graphics. Want all credit to go to them. So, since we're in the East, we'll stick with the East. Carolina and Florida, I'm pulling it up now. In the regular season, Carolina went 2-1 against the Florida Panthers this year. They averaged, while Florida did average more goals gave up more goals per game. Carolina gave up more goals per game, and Florida did get more goals per game. Carolina did find themselves on top. Against these two teams, the Florida Panthers had the better power play at 22.8%, while Carolina is right now only with just under 20% with 19.8% success rate. However, we did talk about it before, we'll talk about it again. The Carolina penalty kill has been exceptional, 84%, with the Florida Panthers 76%. So, Joey, we'll bring it back to you. Tell me what you think is going to happen in this series, who wins, and what the amount of games you think it'll happen in.
I'm going to say Carolina in 6 is going to be my take. As much as this run by Florida has been really unpredictable and really impressive to go in and beat the top 2 teams in the Atlantic Division, I think their run does end here. I think that Freddie Anderson starts 4. I'm going to say that Freddie Anderson starts 4 of the 6 games. I think Ronta will get 2 just as rest days. And I think he'll probably go 3-1. I think Ronta will get a win. I'm not going to say that he's going to be 9-0 going into the finals. I think that's pretty unrealistic. But I think that Carolina wins it in 6. And I would be shocked if Florida won this series. I think Carolina's really good. I think that Carolina wins in 5 or maybe a sweep if Svechnikov is playing. If they had him for these playoffs, I think they'd be really, really difficult to beat. but I'm gonna say Carolina in 6. Also, one thing I wanna point out. I know you're not like an NBA guy, but for anybody listening that might be into the NBA, think about the comparison between this Carolina against Florida matchup compared to the Heat against Celtics matchup in the East in the NBA playoffs. The Heat were the last team in. They were an 8 seed going up against the best team in the entire league, the Bucks, and they went through and they steamrolled them. And the Celtics, who were the unanimous number 2, everybody knew they were not the best but second best, went through, and now they made it to the final or the conference finals. Like nobody's surprised by that. And now it's time to see can the underdog keep going and surprise everybody else again, or is it going to be the favorite that everybody thinks? I just think that's a fun little comparison that really stacks up really well.
The Miami, Florida, just Florida in general area has had very much reason to celebrate with their sports teams this year. Between the Heat, the Panthers, FAU, etc. The Tampa Bay, the list goes on and on. I'm going to go a completely different direction than you are for this. See, and here's why. I'm going to take the Florida Panthers in 7. Wow. Florida has had their backs against the wall 3-1. They came back and they beat the best team in hockey. They shut up a very hot Toronto Maple Leafs team against a very impressive yet injured Tampa Bay team. Florida's been put up against the wall and fought back. I think the goaltending is very even. I think power play wise, that's where Florida's got to limit. Florida's got to limit the penalties. That's where it begins and ends with. If Florida can limit the amount of penalties, forcing Carolina not to go into power play, I do believe Florida can win and be a second wildcard team to go into the Stanley Cup final. I thoroughly believe it. Call me crazy. I think it's going to be
crazy then.
I'm crazy. Call me crazy, but Florida Panthers in 7 seems very realistic to me. I put them down twice so far. They've proven me so bad that I can't even show my face in public anymore. So I'm going to go with Carolina, or I'm going to go with Florida. I'm not going with Carolina. However, if Carolina does win, I'm not going to say it's like a drop dead shocker because Carolina has been incredibly impressive. Another team that's proven me wrong. The Eastern Conference over in general just has given me reasons to just give up on trying and guessing this kind of stuff. Now,
I think that it's going to be Bobrovsky versus Anderson, and I think that the better goalie in the series is going to win the series, and I think Anderson's the better goalie.
I think all Florida has to do is not give up as many penalties. Don't be smart, and that's what that's what the Florida. While it hasn't transpired, that has been the talk. If they can actually implement this, I think Florida wins. Truly, I do.
Well, we'll see.
We'll have to wait and see. No questions. Game 1 does.
I think regardless, this series will be so much fun.
Oh, 100%.
Regardless of who wins or who you're rooting for at home, I think this is a must-watch series.
Exactly, and I didn't have any of these teams in the conference final, so it's hard for me. So it's easier for me to pick now. For this other, of course you did. So for this other, now speaking of second favorite teams, because while the Pens do hold the number 1 spots in our heart, my number 2 team, the Dallas Stars, are in this situation. So let's
just compromise and have Hurricane Stars, and then we both
exactly. But except the friendship might be over after. But again,
it might be. But it was fun while it lasted.
It was fun. We did many great things. Cue the Taps music here.
If season 2 Spittin Facts is only 2 episodes long, you'll know why.
You'll know why. You'll get the message after this. So. Again, Vegas and Dallas. Again, this is made by Puck Report NHL. No spaces, all lower cases. Give them a look up on Instagram. This graphic again. So, Dallas 3-0 against Vegas this year. Did you know Vegas' first ever game in the NHL was against the Dallas Stars?
Did they win?
Vegas did win. Yes, Vegas did defeat the Dallas Stars, but the first ever game they played Dallas. Now. Points per game, Vegas averages more. Goals against, now every other category, Dallas leads in. Which is kind of funny. They allow more goals and they get more goals. They average 3.34 goals a game here, but they give up 2.62. Their power play is at 25%, and their penalty kills at 83.5%. Vegas' penalty kill 77.4%. and Vegas's power play is 20.3. So they're not bad, but Dallas's numbers are obviously better. So,
Yeah.
Joey, the question gets thrown back over to you. Who, what, where, when, and why? And how long?
Everything in me wants to say Vegas in 7, just because that's what you did to my team in the East, but I think the Stars win it in 6.
Hey, alrighty.
I do think that the Stars are the better team. I think they've got the momentum. I think that Vegas beating Edmonton wasn't as it didn't give them as much momentum because I think that everybody kind of knew.
Yeah.
I think that people thought that Edmonton was going to be, like, I had them in my final. I thought that was going to be the team. But when you look at it, it's like, well, McDavid and Draisaitl were good, but that was kind of it. And everybody kind of understands that that's why they lost.
Yeah.
This Stars team, the Kraken are good, man. The Kraken are good, and people aren't realizing. People think that the Stars beat a team that's only in their second year. The Kraken are good, and I think that people are underestimating how difficult of a series that was for the Kraken or for the Stars. And they showed up and when it mattered, and they had a really good Game 7, really physical, really good defense. I really think the Stars are a good team, and I think that they beat Vegas.
I had Vegas going into this playoffs as the team that represents the West in the Stanley Cup Final, and going into today, I was a Vegas believer. I believed Vegas was the difference. But call me crazy, from what I've seen so far, the numbers and you talking, I've been convinced. I'm going to take the Dallas Stars to represent the West here in the NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. I think this series goes to 7. I think it goes to overtime in Game 7.
I was about to change my answer. I was going to say, actually, I think this goes 7, and I think it goes to overtime.
No, it goes 7 overtime.
Yeah.
Dallas.
Who scores the winner?
Who scores the winner for Dallas?
Yeah.
If it's either Pavelski or Robertson.
Mm.
I'd say Pavelski or Robertson. However, don't be surprised if it's like a Wyatt Johnson or like some crazy fourth liner or like, Heiskanen.
I'm going to take Tyler Seguin.
Tyler Seguin? That's a very good, very reasonable possibility.
I feel like I can always rely on him.
Yeah, no, you can always rely on good old Tyler Seguin. Even though he got drafted from Boston. Nonetheless, no, Dallas has just proven to be such a resilient team. Jake Onger, when it matters most, steps up. He has been tested a lot. So I think honestly though, I would take Ottinger over Hill as of right now because and the only reason his numbers are worse are because he's played a lot more games. So give credit to where it's due. No, exactly, and credit to where it's due. Vegas is going to push Dallas to the limit just like Seattle did. But if Dallas can beat a physical team in Minnesota, a very depth-hungry team in Seattle, all they got to do is beat a team with 2 or 3 X factors and a nice supporting cast, and I think this series is meant to be. So I'm going to take Dallas. So for me, it's a Florida-Dallas final. For you, it's going to be a Carolina-Dallas final. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to talk about the Stanley Cup final just yet because we do got to give ourselves something else to talk about.
Because we're gonna predict the final, and then it's gonna be Vegas against.
Yeah, exactly. We got to give ourselves.
One of us is gonna be 0 for 2.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
We gotta give ourselves an opportunity to talk about something else. So, with that being said,
let's not go into detail about it. Who's your Stanley Cup winner? No detail.
No detail right now, from what I've seen. I'm gonna take. Oh crap! I'm gonna take Dallas.
Okay, I'm gonna take Carolina.
All right. Well, you know what? That was a dumb question because now we both took our favorite teams. Oh my!
I knew who. Yeah.
Oh dear Lord! Alrighty. Nonetheless, that is where we're gonna cut it off. NHL wise today, I appreciate so much everybody who has stuck with us and watched. Again, this is going to be uploaded to the East Coast Productions YouTube page where my radio show, Sports with Sparky, may it continue to rest in peace until next school year, is uploaded. Joey, do you want to do you have any final thoughts?
Stay tuned because we're doing new things. You're not going to want to miss it.
Exactly. Very much appreciated, everyone. Make sure, again, to like, subscribe, follow. The socials will be put up over in a second when we're done recording here for everyone, in case you do want to go back, watch what we talk about outside of everything. And speaking of socials, I guess it's worth saying we'll be utilizing some new social media platforms as well. So stay tuned for that. Everything will be linked together so you can see everything at the same time. I'm Ethan Spazarski. This has been with Joey Perano, and this has been Spittin' Facts Season 2, Episode 1. We appreciate you all so much. We'll see you guys next time.